think this film appeals to everyone in that sense because it asks a universal question: where are we going? Who we are?
Hi, thanks for joining me at StylishrAmAsianCultureVulture.com. We'll be talking about the film Sky Peals, which comes to London Film Festival very shortly. Do read the full preview on site. Our special correspondent Tatiana Rosenstein caught up with the writer-director Moeen Hussain and lead actor Farouz Ayoub in Venice shortly after its world premiere. The film a lot about identity. I think you'll find it really interesting. Let's go and find out more.
I think for a long time I wanted to make a sci-fi film that was set in a service station, and I had this world because to me they feel like spaceships. You know, they're very strange, sort of in between spaces. So I had this location, but not a story or a character. It took a long time. I made a short film called Naphtha a few years ago, and it was through the process of that. The sort of characters and ideas and themes I was sort of thinking about served as a natural sort of jumping off point for this, and I found the character of Adam and he felt like he belonged in that world, so I guess that is the starting point.
And what was your first impression after you read the script, so about your character? Who is this Adam?
I was very intrigued, I was very curious because it was very different than anything I've read before, and the world fascinated me, and where he was going and how he thought, and then when I met Moeen I kind of got a lot of that answered, you know. Yeah. Oh, we thought we got some of it answered. It actually led to more questions, but it was very, very interesting. Yeah.
And why did you hire Farrell?
Why did I hire him?
You told me.
No, it's I don't know. It is a very hard role to cast because the character on the page doesn't have, while he's in every scene, he doesn't have much to say or to emote. He's quite inward. And I think when I saw Faraz playing the character, he really, I guess, inhabited it with, I guess, an authenticity. You know, he wasn't trying too hard to show me who the character was. He was just being the character. So yeah, I think that was it. I think it was a pretty easy choice after that. It was, he's the guy.
But you're not that mute in your real life. So
No.
How was it to play this mute person, character?
Mute person. I mean, you know, there was lots of ways I kind of created him. I mean, me and Moeen ran workshops and we discussed the character, and Moeen gave an idea of what he wanted. So we did lots of playing about, and through that we kind of came to this quiet, kind of timid individual, and just working back and forth and doing sort of workshops with him, you discover things and you discover what he wanted, and then you just kind of have to bring that truth, and then, you know, also, you know, it wasn't long after COVID as well, so some of the fears and anxieties that people had around that time and the feelings, it was easy to kind of take that and kind of apply it to the character, and it kind of I came to the understanding quickly because of those emotions that people were feeling, and working with him helped to kind of get to that point.
You know that this idea of alien in some languages, for example in some Asian languages, a foreigner called alien, right?
In
like
English too.
You have like in Italian even it's straniero, so strano, strange. So is it somehow this idea of being foreign in a certain society, is it somehow where you're going with it? And that like father was a immigrant, a complete immigrant, and the son is a kind of half.
Half.
So he's not like his father he was mentioning.
I'm half English, half Pakistani. I don't speak any, you know, Urdu or Punjabi or anything. I've never been there, so it was part of my own culture that I don't understand that well. You know, it felt alien to me, even though I came from that culture or half from that culture. So it was that idea of trying and wanting to understand and be close to something that you know is part of you, but it's hard to access, you know? So that was an idea that I wanted to explore.
What about you?
It's how you interpret the film. I mean, there's definitely elements of that in it. You know, you kind of people maybe. There are people who grow up and they feel like they're looking for a sense of belonging and who they are, and you know, some people go on the journey to find that out, others don't. And I suppose this film also does tap into that element in the sense that it does ask those questions when people do ask themselves sometimes, like, who am I? Where am I from? You know, and it doesn't necessarily even have to be necessarily about your having to be from an immigrant background. I mean, people in general might ask those questions, you know, like they might get curious about their grandparents or their parents. So I think this film appeals to everyone in that sense because it asks universal question: who are we and where are we? Where are we going and who we are? And I think that's the great thing about this film, because it asks a universal question that everyone asks themselves. And of course, for people who may be from an immigrant background, it might cut a little bit deeper, because when they ask these questions, because then you've got sort of your, you know, ethnic identity and things like that you might be searching for. But I think it's a question that everybody asks. It's very universal. Yeah.
And you're right, because in this film I censored, like, there are a lot of characters feeling like aliens. Like, I mean, even though they are locals, let's say, but they're not connected. They're not connected to the place, to each other. So they're kind of also strange, foreign.
Definitely. Yeah. It's, you know, I think every character in their own way are searching to make contact and connect with other people. And, you know, they all seem to exist in a world where there is an isolation and a loneliness. So, yeah, for me, this idea of contact and communication was a big thing, and it affects all the characters.
How does it feel to be in a certain society with a certain background, and what do we need to survive in that society?
It's partly what sparked the writing of the film, you know, is trying, as Faraz said, it's trying to categorise yourself or work out where you fit into things. And I think something I wanted to explore in the film was, is investing in an identity, is it helpful or is it unhelpful? You know, in some ways it is, in some ways it helps us ground ourselves, understand ourselves, link ourselves to histories and things, and feel part of something. In other ways it can be limiting. You know, we think you can over-invest in something. I'm not just talking about, you know, cultural backgrounds, but any sort of identity. And I guess Adam as a character sort of goes on this journey. He completely commits to this idea of being from this other place, so to speak. And I don't think there's an easy answer to that question.
You know, you are what you are. You know, you kind of just find your way. You know, it's very hard to look at that from a perspective of sort of what's the word? Introspection. Yeah, like you just are. You know, you just go about your life. Those identities is just who you are. It's just who you've always been. And like I said, people do get to a point sometimes with a question about, you know, they get interested in sort of the background, the history, who they are, those kind of things. When you're born in a particular background, then a lot of those things is just who you are. You know, sometimes in life you do get to a point where you want to know more. And I think this film focuses on that aspect, in the sense that this is a character who gets to that point where he does want to know who he is and where he comes from, because it's a missing gap in who he is. It's his personal life. He's missing that element. He needs to know who he is and where he comes from, because it's something that's affected him his whole life, and he needs that motivation, that change. And he goes on a journey, and he doesn't realize that this is going to take him on this journey to kind of where that journey is going to take him. And I think that's to answer your question, like, for some people it becomes very important, and for this character it is. And obviously he goes on to this journey where he finds out that his identity is more than he could ever have thought possible. Who he was, where he's from, like, it's imagine having that. Imagine trying to find your identity and who you are, going on a journey and finding out, wow, like, you know, I am this person. Like, this is like overwhelming. So it's interesting. It's very, very interesting, and I think people will kind of question that a lot about themselves. Maybe it might help people go on their own journey to question their identity and who they are and things like that.
So you think it will be helpful for this character, for Adam, right?
Yes,
so
for Adam, yeah.
Kind of give him this kick to move quicker and to be
that's right. Yeah.
He is very abstract, very absent in everything.
It's very static.
And I was really surprised how the other people were like tolerating this kind of mediative statement.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, having patience with him. Yeah, I think in some ways he's a character that, you know, can be frustrating to other people in the film or outside the film, but in some ways there's a lot, he has qualities that a lot of people value, and he doesn't see that in himself. So yeah,
anything you can share about production?
It was sort of a winter shoot, night shoot, so it was challenging in that way, I guess. Lots of nights.
What was the location?
So we shot in Yorkshire in the UK, all around. So it wasn't the most glamorous, it was sort of like shopping centres and car parks and stuff. So it wasn't the most glamorous thing.
It wasn't, but the shopping centre that we shot in, which you see in the film, which became its own character. It was, what was it called? The Ridings.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting place. It's. I'm glad they captured it on film, because when you spend so much time then you shoot this film, it kind of takes on its own kind of character. It's like almost like that world. It kind of like, whenever I think of this film now, I just think of that shopping centre. It's a very significant part. It has its own identity. It's a very strange, weird, but kind of wonderful little place located in this part of England.
And it was a mixture. So it was a mixture of the service station. We created it, so it was a shopping centre. It was the outside of a disused sports centre. We sort of added all these elements together to sort of create this made-up service station. So that was fun.
I feel it's like kind of growing trend of hiring actors of ethnic background or doing this kind of productions. What do you think? Can you comment on that?
I don't think there's a trend. I think it's just all it is people are more interested in different stories now, and it's through the hard work of people like Moen and other filmmakers who have the talent and who've worked hard and who create quality products and quality films, and the actors and writers and filmmakers who've worked so hard that now there are certain doors being opened now that maybe weren't there before. So people are really keen to hear and see different stories. So I think that's the interesting part.